Hey, everybody. Good to see you here. This is another episode of Ask the Bootmaker. And today I have a very special guest, Chase DeForest of Chase Custom Boots. I hope you guys are excited about this as I am. It's always fun to talk to bootmakers. We got Chase in the waiting room right now. So let's get her in here and get this discussion going.
Hi.
Hey, Chase, how's it going?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Great. It's good to see you in your awesome studio. This looks spectacular.
Yeah, thanks so much. I know I got the backdrop all framed, right?
It's perfect. You're a pro at this.
With just me hiding in the corner.
Love it. How are you doing today?
Yeah, no, it's almost 80 degrees here. It's beautiful and warm. It's incredible.
Nice. Yeah, it's warm up here in Boston too, a little bit warmer than I expected, but I'm not complaining about it, that's for sure.
Yeah, that's right.
Well, thank you so much for joining me today on Ask the Bootmaker. It's always fun to do these interviews with professionals like yourself. I'm wondering if you can get us started with a little bit of an intro and also how you got interested in your career in custom cowboy boots.
Well, I was raised on a farm and my family showed horses. So, the riding Western tack thing started there. I studied art in college, was always a creative kid in general prior to that, and ended up being a furniture maker for a couple decades, custom designed for private clients type of furniture maker. And I met a custom cowboy boot maker at a party, and the rest is history, as they say.
Wow, I love it. So you had such a good conversation with this bootmaker at the party. It just got you intrigued and you followed the rabbit hole down to where you are today.
Yeah, basically. I mean, I was kind of flummoxed. I was like, raised on a farm, wearing boots, working in a craft industry, reading all the mags. Like, how have I never heard of custom cowboy boot makers? It's totally something that I should have known about, but I didn't. So I started doing the research and kind of liked what I found, which just was what a sort of small world it was, what a kind of cultish underground world in a lot of ways. It's not something you go to school to study necessarily. I mean, I think you used to be able to go to community colleges in Texas. They'd have programs, but those have all gone the way of the dinosaur. And there's not really published books, and you can't really just watch YouTube videos and figure out how to do it. Bless Lisa Sorrell and all the people that have great information up about that. But to actually piece all of those together to be able to construct a boot would be pretty tricky to do. So, but everybody knows them, right? Cowboy boots, they're iconic. Everybody wants a pair. And so sort of an interesting dynamic of things going on in the profession I found interesting.
For real. Is there a point that stuck out to you where there was this moment when you were doing your research and you really were sold on custom cowboy boots because of like this one fact? Was there that moment for you, or it was just a combination of everything that you were taking in?
No, I went to take a 2-week course when I learned about it, and if I want to make a pair, I went and took a 2-week course, and when I was done, I thought, that's it. I'm giving up wood for leather, and I'm gonna leave furniture and start making boots. So it was kind of the whole experience of it, and the way that it tied to my background, and it was a much more forgiving medium in a way than furniture making, because it's shop space is expensive, tools are dangerous, furniture's cumbersome, it's hard to ship, you're competing with IKEA, it's hard to exhibit. Like, there's kind of all these limiting factors I found. And sorry about the car noise. I don't know if you can hear that, but
No worries. It's very organic. I'm not
well,
worried about it at all.
It's so warm out. I have both of my windows open. It's seriously hot in here. So anyway, yeah, it just was a much better medium. Smaller studio space, smaller tools, and you weren't with the boot. You're not recreating the wheel every time, right? The boot structure is always the same, but as to what you put on it, that's where all the creativity comes in, as opposed to furniture, where if you would do different joinery every time, or you could make cabinets or chairs or tables, it's all different. And so it was a lot slower of a process.
So you like the rules that Cowboy Boots and making Cowboy Boots gives you, rather than the freedom of just starting out and, oh, I'm going to build a table, but it's going to look like this. Instead, a boot has to look like a boot. Is that it?
It's just one of the things that was appealing about it as a medium, is that I didn't need to reconsider the structure of it every time. That's a continual thing, you can make a couple different kinds of boots. There's different ways to make them, but in general, it's basically the same concept.
Yep. That's sort of what I like about music, is that it has rules. You have to obey those rules in order to have what is a song. You just can't go all John Cage all the time. You have to have a time signature. You got to have a chord progression. It needs rules. And I feel like creativity really really flies when you have to obey rules in a structure of something. Would you agree on that?
For what I know about music, having played trumpet as a kid, but
Nice.
It's like, what is jazz? It's finding improvisation off of some basic tenets. I might liken Cowboy Boots to that, or maybe bluegrass or folk music in this situation.
No doubt.
Every genre has room for improvisation, right?
Mm-hmm. No doubt. So coming from the furniture world, was there anything that influenced you in your cowboy boot career that you learned in making furniture?
Oh, I would say that I was able to go to it relatively easy, because both mediums deal with function, and they're both structural. They share a little bit of tool language, some of the hand tools, the power tools, a little bit sanders, things like that. So there's just enough of an overlap that it was a good medium to segue into.
Love it. So when you were apprenticing, now did you apprentice with the person who you met at the party, or did you find somebody else to apprentice with?
Yeah, so I merely met the person at the party, didn't study with them. I went and took one of Carl Chappell's 2-week bootmaking courses, which is fabulous. And, also a little sad because Carl Chappell has passed away in the past month or 6 weeks. But then after that, I went to Wyoming and apprenticed with a couple who make boots there. So I after I made my first pair with Carl, I realized, like, oh my God, I could never do this again. Like, wait, what? It was, I knew just enough to maybe be a little bit dangerous, but I needed to go and actually spend some time and make a few pairs and watch people. So I was really thankful that they agreed to take me on, because it's not exactly the easiest thing to do. Learn how to make them, find people to help you, There's not that many custom cowboy boot makers in the world.
Right. Yeah, no doubt. And those and the people who do it, they want to spend their time actually making the boots, not always just teaching, right?
Yeah. I find in general people are pretty generous. But yeah, it's a tricky thing to bring someone into your studio.
No doubt. Now, the people who did teach you, or who you apprenticed with, were professional ranchers, cowboys. Is this correct?
Well, they I would say primarily they were custom cowboy boot makers. They also did cowboy work for friends and clients. You know, riding cattle to summer pasture and, you know, dealing with fall pregnancy testing, that, you know, that kind of thing. But, you know, on a seasonal basis. But pretty cool. I mean, more than most of us. And I got to go along on some of those rides while I was living out there. And that was fantastic. You know, really fun to do.
So from seeing it, the cowboy boot work from that perspective, they're making cowboy boots to be used, and they need to be built right so that they last as long as possible. With you being in DC, is this still something that you focus on? Because I know you do a lot of art too, which we will get into. But how does that join together in your world of working and learning from a custom cowboy boot maker who does the work, and then also bringing in your art aspects into it? How does that work in your mind?
Well, I sort of heard two questions there. And, you know, the first one is that the boots that I learned to make are the boots that I still make, even though my clients are primarily not riding horses and herding cattle. Except maybe in their office places. So, you know, my clients don't have, you know, interest in the more super durable, you know, hides like elephant skin and buffalo and things like that, that some cowboy boot or some cowboys or people who work in the West, do more farming, ranching type work often want, right? Because they're wearing them every day and they get worn out. My clients are pretty much happy with just straight up cowhide, as a general rule, some alligator sometimes. But so that's what I would say about the quality of boot I'm making. It still could be worn, you know, every day for months on end. It's built with the same quality. In terms of how I incorporate sort of the creative work I do into the boots, you know, they're kind of two separate things. I have my own conceptual ideas that I explore in the two-dimensional images that I make out of stitched leather. When it comes to the boots, clients generally have an idea of what they want. That sends me down a path. So, you know, I want my state flower on my boot, or currently I'm making a pair with seahorses and octopus. You know, it's kind of all over the map. And so that's quite fun. I love that, being given a starting point and then saying, go, show me what you can show me.
Love it. Just got a good question in the chat from Carol Burgess. She asks, do you like making more of a working boot or the fancy design boots with that seahorse and octopus sort of style, or the flowers?
Whatever people want. I mean, I just did a pair of pretty traditional 5 rows of stitching, sort of, you know, feathery, flamey type, very typical Western boot pattern. And I mean, that was pretty fun because I don't do that very often. It's just to sit and stitch row after row after row. It's kind of nice, right? Because it's kind of meditative instead of fussing with my laser cutter and doing all these overlays and inlays, you know. So, but both of them have their, you know, joys of making.
So you have a leather laser cutter, like a CNC?
I have a Glowforge, which is more of a, you know, I would almost say hobbyist type of laser cutter. They're sort of geared for the at-home maker. It cuts a lot more than just leather. They've been out for a few years now, 3-4 years. Really cool tool. Super fun. I can get a lot more detail in my work and save a lot of time. So I don't use it on every pair, and I probably use it more for the artwork. But it is super cool thing to experiment with. I've loved having it.
Is it just really accurate, and it makes your job cutting much more easy because you don't have to worry about getting exactly the same shape. You'll just rely on the machine for that.
Yeah, yeah, no, totally. You want a, sunflower, I will give you a perfect sunflower. Yeah, I mean, if you think about it, there's a lot of stuff that's super detailed that, to do by hand is just, oof, can be really time consuming. So it has opened up some doors in terms of being able to do some more complex stuff.
Yeah, I can only imagine. My dad has a fabrication company, Twisted Wheel Fabrication. He uses the CNC on metal all the time, and it's just like it's done, it's accurate, and then he moves on to the next thing. So just seeing
Yeah,
how
right.
it helps him with the time in building something. Have you noticed that it shaves a ton of time off of a pair of boots for you?
I mean, it's not like boots aren't, there's 4 panels. So maybe I'm making 8 sunflowers. You know what I mean? It's not hours and hours, but it's enough. But it's also just a tool. It's fun to explore with. I don't know. Do you want to see it? I can show you some images.
Yeah, totally. Let's see it.
Let's take my phone out of its holder.
This is an awesome shop.
Let me just reverse my camera. There we go. Okay, so there's the Glowforge. There's some things sitting on it. But it's got a pretty big bed. And so, there's where the magic happens, right? Just put the items in there and then I can just vent it out my window. So that's super convenient. And in terms of some of the things that I'm able to do, for instance, I was talking about the sunflowers. So, that's a pretty detailed little object, and I've engraved it to get the petal delineation, and then I cut it to get the exterior shape.
So that's engraved and cut. It's not sewn. There's no stitching on it.
I mean, it's stitched in the center, where to stitch down to this object. This is the image. This is
That's cool.
Yeah, thanks. It's from a series I did about plants threatened or endangered by cattle grazing, urbanization, and climate issues. So that was fun. I've done a bunch of flowers, different plants.
Do you find yourself using a lot of the engraving technique on boots in any way? That's something that I haven't seen explored very often.
A bit. I just did a pair of boots that were had a family tree on them, so I was able to laser etch the names, which was super convenient because stitching names is hard, and also you can get a little bit more detail and do things a little bit smaller. I mean, you can stitch names, but they can't be too tiny. So yeah, it definitely gives flexibility and opens up some doors.
That is so cool. I love the integration of technology that you have in your shop. Really cool.
Yeah, right. So considering that like most of the tools that I'm using are, like hundreds of years old and ancient, it is pretty fun, the difference between the two.
Now, Carol just asked another question here, which fits in nicely to the topic right now. With the laser engraver, do you also do any tooling in addition to that, or do you mainly rely on the engraver for that?
Yeah, no, tooling is leatherworking 2.0 for me. I don't do any tooling. Would love to, maybe some point in time later, but I don't do any carving. That's a whole other bailiwick. So I'm sure it could be fun in combination with tooling to do some laser etching, or even just to laser etch the pattern you're going to cut, right? That would be super.
For real. That would be interesting. Cool.
Yeah.
I like that idea.
Yeah.
So you got your leather artwork on the wall, and you do a lot of leather art. I noticed that you have 2 websites, one for your boots and one for your leather art. But which came first, the boots or the leather art?
So the boots came first. And, I mean, hides are just such incredible materials, or hide is such an incredible material. I was really, and I have a history of textiles, everything from quilting to weaving. And so, it fits well in that context. And I just, the work that I do sort of focuses on the relationship of cattle to the American West, or to humans, to consumption, all that kind of stuff. I mean, it's kind of a potent material, like what it's, where it's coming from. So, I've split out the identities. I don't call it leather art. It's just artwork. It is made from leather primarily. I do some other stuff, but it's got a whole other span that's available to me that doesn't happen through the Cowboy Boots, in terms of being able to do art fairs and residencies and exhibitions. It's like the whole other, or not the whole other, but it's a lot of things that I can't do making custom cowboy boots, because I'm basically making a pair at a time for an individual. I don't do retail, so I'm not exhibiting them as a general rule. I mean, sometimes I apply to contests, or every now and then a pair will go somewhere, but so that's why I've sort of intentionally split out the identities of the two.
Have you ever had leather or just your art customers, come through and get a pair of custom cowboy boots from you?
I have had boot clients buy my artwork. I have not had.
Not the other way around?
Not yet, but I haven't been doing it for, I've only been doing it for 2-ish years, 3-ish years. So it's kind of a new thing. So we'll see.
How has your experience making art come into helping someone choose a design for their custom boots? Is that a thing?
Well, I mean, I don't, it's all employing my creativity on some level. I don't know how I would delineate it, but I'm not trying to get my clients to put imagery on their boot that has to do with my interests. Like I said, people always come with an idea. They always know what they want, by and large.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And we got a question from Saul in the live chat, actually, it goes right along with this topic. Is there anything frustrating during a consultation with a customer that you've experienced?
No, people are generally so excited. I mean, it's kind of a novelty to be able to design an item of clothing that you wear, right? And so people are really joyful and lovely. And some clients are a little bit more decisive than others, and can, be responsive and respond to ideas more quickly. But what are you going to do? We're all human in the end. So.
Yep. So true. So let's talk about the leathers, since we were just talking about like the designs and stuff. Mm-hmm. Do you normally use just the cowhide? Neil asks, or sometimes maybe exotic skins?
Primarily cowhide, sometimes alligator, sometimes ostrich, a little bit of goat for, inlay detailing.
But do you have a favorite?
No, they all have interesting properties about them. So. But yeah, I'm not big into the exotics. My clients aren't asking for them. I'm not really 100% sure where a lot of these things are coming from and how they're harvested. So it's always kind of made me pause. Mm-hmm. I'm not quite sure how we're getting elephant hides, for instance. I mean, I've asked one of my leather suppliers, and he's explained how, but I know we're not farming elephant, right? So, yeah, I think there's some ethical issues that, I'm glad my clients aren't asking for them.
Yeah, it's important to understand where some of these things come from. I agree. If you can track it down, that's great. But, it seems like there are some areas where things can get through that necessarily shouldn't at some
Yeah.
points. So
Yeah.
I respect that. What is the most enjoyable part of making boots for you? That's a
Getting the
question from
call
Carol.
from the client when they try them on and they fit and they are shrieking with delight. That's pretty great. It's also really fun when you finally decide on the design and you start making it, just sitting down and actually getting to the making is really enjoyable. It's kind of what it's all about. It's when I put Jeremiah Craig music on in the background and just roll with it.
That's what I'm talking about.
I'm surprised you haven't asked me what I'm listening to in the studio.
Yeah, let's hear it. What do you listen to right now?
It's not very exciting. I'll be honest. I'm kind of a jazz, classical, ambient fan because the music doesn't have lyrics, and I find that sort of much nicer to have on in the background than somebody talking or singing. I don't know. It's like there's so much noise out there all the time, news and music and people talking, it's just, I find that calming. But I'm also a really big fan of a morning radio new music program for a Wyoming radio station that I listen to pretty regularly. So.
Wow. So you have to tune into that online, right? Because you're in Washington, D.C., or does it come all the way?
Yeah, right. That'd be some serious FCC signals. No, that is not happening.
Right?
I'm getting it online.
So as far as like jazz and classical or even ambient, what are some of the artists that are filling your playlist these days?
Yeah, no, you know what? Nobody in particular. It's
just got it on the radio?
Yeah, it's all over the map. Yeah, well, mostly online as well. Not so much a local station because those have ads. So more Spotify and random radio stations that have jazz or classical programs.
Without the ads because you like to be in the zone the entire time.
Yeah, I mean, right. Who wants ads ever? Yeah.
We got a good question in here from Deathlike Reviews asking, what are the favorite boots that you've made so far?
Oh, there's a pair, a really simple sort of army green with the suede turnout for the foot, and they're a pair of black and white hawk feathers. Just the stitching was really conducive to convey the texture of a feather, and the proportions were all right. And I don't know, it just happens that way. You make a pair and they sing and you go, oh, wow, I wasn't expecting that, but that's kind of one of my favorite pairs. It's a
pair of green rough out, you said?
Yeah, it's on my Instagram feed. Back there a bit.
I love green rough out right now. It's like that's one of the colors that is just standing out to me so much. That and like a blue suede too.
Are you wearing your green golf pants right now?
I'm not wearing green golf pants right now. I've only ever wore those pants with black boots. But it would go really well with those green boots too.
I watched that little program of what pants you can wear with your boots of yours yesterday, and that was hilarious. I just have to tell you though, my only comment would be, but can you wear the same black t-shirt with all 3 pairs of pants?
Yeah, why not? Why not?
You didn't go there. You didn't take in the whole outfit, Jeremiah.
Those are for other videos. You can't cover every topic in every video, right? Or else I would just be out of ideas and I wouldn't even be talking to you. I'd just give up. How many boots have you made for yourself?
I have about 6 pairs. Yeah.
And do you make them as sort of a experiment, or do you make them because you want them and you have an inspiration to make them?
Yeah, well, there's my first pair of boots, which are sitting. I don't know if we can see it. Yeah, they're up there. They're up there, up
Yeah,
on top of my leather stack. But anyway, um,
those are
and
pretty tall.
perfectly wearable. I don't, I just oftentimes clients will come in and I won't have a pair of boots in the shop for them to see to explain things. So that's why I brought that pair in. And then I've made a pair for competition. I really just wanted a black and a blue pair. So I'm about to make myself another pair. I'm going to experiment with a different making process. Maybe incorporating a zipper, or also just doing, instead of a 4-part boot, doing a 2-part boot. So
Ooh, nice.
So I figure I
That
have
sounds
to.
hard.
Yeah, I think actually, I mean, yes, of course it sounds hard because I haven't done it yet, but I hear from other bootmakers, it's not, you just got to do it and you'll go, oh yeah, and figure out the other proportions and rules that you need to take in mind for attaching the vamp and the counters and stuff. So that's really what it's doing, is figuring out those details so that maybe I can offer it to other clients. Cause I think it would give me more creativity. I mean, if the boot's just one piece, you can do a whole scene, whereas having the front and back and the mirror images, yeah, I'm just curious about that.
Yeah, they look so good. I've been looking at a few 2-part boots, and where the vamp comes up, it just looks so clean, and they just look so classic. It's such a good look, but
Yeah.
every time I see one, I'm just imagining how hard it must be to make that and make it perfect every time.
I'm curious more about the fit. People say there's a little bit of compromise in the fit because you can't pre-stretch and shape the leather in the same way. So in terms of the pull-on primarily. So I'm curious about that.
Interesting. So the crimping would be different. Is that an issue when you're making the 2-piece?
Well, I don't know because I haven't made a pair yet. So.
But do you must stretch all, you must crimp all of your leather and stretch it all when you're making them, or is that?
Yes, there are crimp boards that you would use.
Interesting. I'm still new to like how the boot is built, but that the 2-piece build of a boot sounds super complex to me, and I'm definitely interested in following that when you do make those.
When are you going to go make your first pair of boots?
I don't know. I would probably do it on one of your starting points where with a class, but
Yeah.
I don't think that I would ever do it like full time or anything. Like
No,
I just want to make songs, but I want to definitely make a pair by doing a course someday.
Yeah,
for sure.
No, I think you should just take a 1 week, 2 week vacation and go do it. Just make a pair for the sake of your interviewing skills, if nothing else.
Yeah, I would love it. That would be awesome. And also to have a pair of boots that I would be able to make and then respect everybody I talk to even more. Right. I mean, I already respect all of you guys so much. It's just like there's things that I know who just blow my mind. In the process. Did you find that there was that moment for you when you were building your first pair where you said, wow, this is a lot harder. This one aspect is much harder than I thought it was going to be?
Oh yeah. I mean, I didn't consider, I'd never made a pair of shoes. I wasn't even thinking about how they all fit together. Yeah, I was impressed with the complexity for sure. I mean, it took 2 full weeks to make a pair of boots, and I guess I was a beginner, but I also had someone who is hardcore professional standing over me saying, oh, now do that, now do that. And sometimes doing parts of it for me to show me. And so, yeah, they're complicated. I mean, getting the fit and not to mention all the design aspects. I mean, yeah, it's tricky.
Mm-hmm. Is there anything from boot making that you've learned either about yourself or that you've been able to apply to life in general. I talk to a lot of boot makers and they have like this wisdom that is just next level. And I always get like little these little segments. It's just like the wisdom that you all have is incredible. I want to know, what is something that you've been able to apply to everyday life through boot making?
You know, I mean, I wish. I don't know that I've had that moment of, you know, lightning striking. um, you know, I guess the, you know, the all of it. Boots have made me some pretty interesting connections. Um, you know, it's when people, you know, come up and say, "Oh, I love your boots," and then you say, "I made them," they freak out. You know, there's some interesting opportunities that have arisen from people who learned that I make boots, and so there's some kind of weird serendipity in that, and it's an unconventional profession, which as a general rule people respond to pretty well.
Mm-hmm.
So I would say uh, there's a lot to the novelty of it that's been kind of interesting in terms of how that manifests in the rest of my life.
No doubt, and helps build your network a little bit easier just because people are interested in talking to you about it.
Yeah, I mean, yes and no. Sometimes there's clients come of it, and sometimes, you know, other times it's just general interest, but either way.
So with you being in Washington, D.C., it's not the first place that comes to mind for a custom cowboy boot maker. Is there anything that is different about working in the nation's capital than would be, say, in the state that everybody thinks of right away when thinking about custom cowboy boots, Texas?
Right. Well, as I like to say, there's plenty of cowboys in this town. So, you know, and again, that whole, they're iconic, you know, people want them. And, you know, in a way, the entire country is represented in Washington, D.C., right? Every state and all the people that are here representing those states. So, might be less or more obvious place for boots than maybe New York City or another major, you know, metropolitan area.
Do you have clients that have served in the government or are elected representatives?
Yes. Yeah.
Good. I'm glad to hear it.
Yeah. That's all I'll be saying.
More of our representatives need cowboy boots, and I'm glad they're choosing custom.
Right. Right.
Now, when you're and you don't have to say who they were or anything, but this is just something that came to my mind. When you're fitting them, when you're getting their measurements, do you ever like try to slide in your interests on how they might stand on a particular issue here or there? You just, measure them and then go about building their boots.
Yes. Well, you know, like any good workplace, politics are not discussed. Right.
That's got to
So,
be tough in Washington, D.C., though.
yeah. Um, yeah. Well, you know, considering the majority of workplaces around here are government based.
Mm-hmm.
Although actually, you know, if you work in government, you aren't supposed to talk politics either. So there's that kind of funny conundrum, right? You work for the country, you don't work for a party.
That's good. I'm glad that that's the way that that's the way it should be.
That's right.
So when you do have your client makeup, this is a question from Neil. Are they mainly females or males for the most part?
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah. Pretty good, pretty even split. Maybe 2/3 female, maybe. I don't know. I'd have to go count, but pretty even.
Love it. Who do you like to work with more, the males or the females?
You know, no preference. It's all about personality.
Mm-hmm. When you're working with a person trying to get their design of their boot, and you must be like working off of their personality. say if they're a little bit more reserved or maybe they're a little bit more bubbly? Does that go into the design ideas that you have for their boots?
Um, yeah, I mean, as a general rule, I'm always trying to encourage people to go for the most distinctive boot possible, because you can go buy, a black or brown pair of boots, pretty much anywhere. And, even these days you can get some pretty sparkly, bedazzled, colorful boots, that the embroidery that's become so popular. They can be pretty lively, but I do try to encourage clients to kind of go for it. And most are game, because if you're already ordering a custom pair of footwear, you're pretty much into it to start with. Sometimes people resist. I did have one client come back later and say, "Oh, I wish I'd gone more bold." Woman who owns a brown pair of boots. So, but I give people, I do a bunch of different drawings and give people options, and I stitch an entire top as a final sample, so people really know what they're getting before they get it, so they're comfortable with it. And it's all about what the client wants to wear. I mean, you're trying to make people happy, so it's not, I don't need to push my agenda.
And do people have to come in and meet with you to get measured, or is it something that they can do online or over the phone with you?
As a general rule, I need to fit people in person.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a couple instances in which I haven't been able to be in person with someone. So it sort of just depends on them, and they're capable of, giving me measurements that I can trust. But as a general rule, it is a custom product. So I really want to make sure that I have the measurements right.
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah. Because it's a painful process if you don't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And do you get really worried, and really nervous when somebody comes in and tries their boots on for the first time?
No. As a general,
why not?
I'm not the nervous, worrying type. So, and I guarantee fit, and I pay attention, and the exception of a couple of times that's worked for me. So, yeah, it's always a relief.
Wow, that's really nice.
I will admit, but
that must be really nice not to be nervous about something that you spent so much time and effort on, and then just have complete confidence that it's gonna fit. Not so even before I go live or do shows, I'm a little bit nervous. Okay, we got to do this, and I use those nerves to help me, give me energy and go out and do the best that I can do. It's incredible. I can't even imagine not having any of those nerves.
Yeah, I mean, it's again, I'm showing them a sample of what the boot's going to look like. So that part's pretty much taken care of, right? They visually know what they're getting. Because that could, I think, create somebody gets a pair of boots and goes, "Oh, it's not quite what I thought it was going to be." That would be awkward and not fun. So I've alleviated that potential. And then just in terms of the fit, it's I've been making them for a while, so I guess you get more comfortable with every pair that fits, maybe a smidge more comfortable.
Love it. That's such a good place to be in. Can you drop your social media, maybe your website? We got lots of people asking about your website, and lots of interest in the live chat right now.
Oh, great. Yeah. So my website is chasecustomBoots.com. That, and my Instagram handle is Chase Custom Boots. The artwork is ChaseDeForest.net, and the Instagram handle is Chase.DeForest. There, and through either website or either Instagram handle, you can find the other.
And I definitely recommend everybody follow on Instagram and check out the website because your work is really cool. Love
Oh,
looking at
thanks
all
so
those pictures
much.
of the boots.
Yeah, that's so kind
Yeah,
of you.
it's definitely deserved because those boots look incredible.
Well,
And
thanks. You
I
want a
hope
pair,
you
Jeremiah? Come on.
hell yeah, I do. As soon as I got enough money, I'm totally coming to everybody I've talked to so far.
I don't know. I don't even know how you choose, right? There's so many, so many
But it's
options
fun
to
though
have.
because everybody has a different outlook, a different personality. So as I talk to more people, in the back of my mind, I'm like, okay, now if I wanted this kind of boot, I would probably go to this person, or if I wanted this kind, I would go to this person. So I'm already like drawing connections and making this map of all the custom boots that I want and who exactly I want to make them for me.
Right.
It's like fringe benefits of talking to everybody.
I have done a pair of boots with guitars.
Love it.
Yeah.
What kind of guitars? Electric guitars, acoustic?
No, acoustic guitar. Yeah.
That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah. Yeah. It was fun. It's
What
nice.
else
It's a
were
nice,
they?
but a guitar is good because it's, it's vertical and vertical images are always much easier to do on a vertical boot.
What leather was the rest of the boot? Was it like an alligator, cowhide?
No, it was cowhide. Yeah.
Or the specs?
Just cowhide boot. Bunch of initials.
Did you cut that with the laser too?
You know what? I don't think I did actually. Because I think that was before I owned my laser cutter.
Did it the old-fashioned way.
That's right. I know.
Love it.
Yeah.
Awesome, Chase. Thank you so much for spending this time with me today. This was awesome. I loved learning about how you're combining the technology with some of the older tools that you have in your shop. That laser cutter is incredible, and seeing your artwork there. This was an awesome conversation. So thank you so much for spending this time with me.
Well, thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it. And I hope to meet you in person somewhere down the line.
Yes, me too. That would be great.
Yeah, let me know when you have a gig in DC. Do you ever play in DC?
I haven't played in DC yet, but it's definitely on the list for sure.
Yeah, I mean, Boston's not that far away, so.
No, not that far away at all. I drove past DC for a wedding just a couple weeks ago in Virginia.
Right.
So
right.
I've done it, and I can do it one day for sure.
Yeah, no, it's easy. Well, great. Well, thank you for the opportunity, and good luck with your upcoming interviews. And I'll be looking for the next video about what shirts to wear with your boots.
Yes, totally. I have done a couple on them, but I don't know if I've done one complete. That one, I would have to get some input from the community because I'm sure that would be a very controversial video, even more so than the pants one.
Or you could do a video on all of your different haircuts, because that's also an impressive array of styles too.
Yep, they're all on YouTube too, spanning back like 10 years.
Yeah, no,
I have
great.
all of my haircuts up. Thanks so much, Chase. You're the best.
Yeah. Take care.
Have
Bye,
a great
everyone.
rest of your day. Everybody watching right now or after the fact, check her out online, chasecustomBoots.com, and on Instagram.
Okay.
You're the best. Thank